Hello, my dear friends. We refer to the Torah in davening as Torah's Chaim, the living Torah. In what sense is it living? It means that Torah has a message for every single generation. It's contemporary. It speaks to me. It was given 3,000 years ago to an ancient people, but it speaks to me today in a very relevant fashion. What are we supposed to take away from the story of the two tablets? There was the first set of tablets and the second set of tablets, the Luchos Rishonos, the Luchos Shnios. God gave the tablets to Moshe Rabbeinu. He went up on Har Sinai. Then the Jewish people worshipped the golden calf. Moshe shattered the tablets. And then God gave Moshe a second set of tablets. What does it say to me, that episode? And I think that each one of us has two sets of tablets. We have a Luchos Rishonos and a Luchos Shnios. So you'll say, well, what do you mean by that? We all have Luchos Rishonos and Luchos Shnios. So here's what I mean. I mean to say is that the Luchos Rishonos and the Luchos Shnios teaches that no matter how much a person messes up, no matter how much a person is irresponsible and he goofs off and he does the wrong thing, there's always a possibility for a second chance. The Jewish people, if you think about it, unbelievable ingratitude. God performed 10 makos. They were slaves for 210 years. All of a sudden, Moshe Rabbeinu shows up out of nowhere. He says, God spoke to me. I'm going to take you out of Mitzrayim. The Egyptians say, no way. Paro says, forget it. So Moshe performs, through the Ribono Shel Olam, 10 miracles until finally the divine retribution of Mitzrayim, the last miracle, Makas Bechoros, and the Jewish people leave Mitzrayim Biyad Rama with a sense of strength and greatness, and they're traveling in the desert, and there's no food, and there's no water, and God provides a miraculous well, and the food comes down from the heavens, and they march to Har Sinai, and they see God reveals himself to these people who a few days ago were slaves. God has enormous revelation. The skies open up, and Moshe Rabbeinu goes up onto the mountain for 40 days, and he comes back down from the mountain with a second set, with the first set, with the Luchos Rishonos. Wow, what an amazing thing! So what did the people do? Even before Moshe came down from Har Sinai, the people went. 40 days passed, they didn't know where Moshe Rabbeinu was, they went back to their old pagan ways. They worshipped idolatry, the worst sin. In the Seres HaDibros, it was the second of the Seres, they blew it in an unbelievable way. In fact, the Mefarshim struggled to understand how did they do that? How do you explain that? So the answer is that that's human nature, that people, as much as people are inspired to change and people think that, wow, we're floating in the air, we're like angels, but then a moment later, people go back to their old ways. That's how people are. So but you would think that it's all over. And in fact, that's what God said, that I'll wipe them out and I'll start over again. I'll make you a great nation. Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, that's not, don't do that. And Moshe pleads for the Jewish people, and God is mocha them. But you would think, it's gone. God gave them the most precious gift in the world, the tablets, the luchos. God gave that to them straight from heaven. It was you ever hear such a thing, that God sends from heaven? Moshe Rabbeinu goes up onto a mountain and he comes down with a set of tablets that God hewed out of stone, and he inscribed it with his own handwriting. Wow, that's the most precious thing in the world. And the Jews, they because of their conduct, Moshe took the luchos, which were more valuable than anything, and he shattered them at the foot of the mountain. So you would say, guys, it's all over. You people are finished. You're washed out. There's no hope for you. You're ingrates. You're idol worshippers. You're still the same slave mentality as when you left Mitzrayim. No hope left for the Jews. But in fact, what happened was Moshe went back up to the mountain a second time, and he brought down the second time. He brought the Luchos Shnios and the second tablets, and it was the second tablets from which the Jewish people learned, and that became the foundation for Torah. And in our own lives, we all have, as I said in the beginning, we all have Luchos Rishonos and Luchos Shnios. How so? Because nobody is perfect. We all have our ups and downs. We all mess up at times. We fall short. We have shortcomings. And even though the first luchos are shattered, there's still a possibility of second luchos. You could still have, there's the luchos before the Egel Hazav, and there's the luchos after the Egel Hazav. After the golden calf, there's also a set of luchos. And the truth is that there was a big difference between the first set of luchos and the second luchos, in that the first luchos were given with, it was an enormous spectacle. Because of Rakim, there was thunder, and there was lightning in the mountain, there was smoke coming from the mountain, and the sound of the shofar was blasting away. The second luchos, everything was quiet. It was private. Rashi says it was a betzina. It was done privately. It was a small affair. The first set was like a major chasana, a tremendous wedding where they invite 10,000 people to the wedding or more. The second luchos was quiet. It was still, the Chumash says, God told Moshe, nobody's going to come even near the mountain with you. You go up privately and you come back. I think that Rashi says the reason for that is because the first luchos were given with too much publicity, so there was an ayin hara. I want to suggest another idea, and that is that the first time the enthusiasm of the first time cannot be recaptured later. I remember the first time I went to Eretz Yisrael and I saw the Kosel Rabbi. I was 20 years old. That was one of the most moving experiences of my life. I was moved to tears. I never can recapture that experience again, no matter how many times I go to Kosel. And it's, the reason is simple, because the first time is that you see the Kosel, that's the most moving. So the first time that the Jewish people received the Torah, that was with thunder and lightning, and it was a tremendously religiously inspiring experience. But the second time already, they were jaded. They had been there, and they had the Torah, and they messed up the Torah. You can't have thunder and lightning the second time. And in fact, God's involvement in the second luchos was diminished from the first luchos. The first luchos, God gave Moshe the tablets. The second luchos, God says, Psolocha, you carve it out of the mountain yourself. You've got to invest. There was not enough investment on the part of the people of the first luchos. You invest, and God is hidden the second time. And that is really, for the future of the Jewish people was on the basis of the second luchos. God is hidden. God is not so apparent. There's no, the revelation took place once, but that's it. Now, man has to discover the Ribono Shalom when in the giving of the second luchos. And that's how it is in life. When we're younger and we're all excited and we're enthused and we're full of inspiration, then there are ups and downs. And when you go down, then you come back up, you don't have the same level of excitement that you have the first time, the same sense of inspiration, the same sense of religiosity. But no matter, the Luchos teaches after the first Luchos, before the Egel, there's always the possibility of the second Luchos after the Egel Hazav. This is reflected in this theme. It's reflected so many ways in the Torah. The Torah is the Torah way of life is so positive and with so much optimism. Never give up hope. Never lose hope, because there's always a possibility to start over again. You look up at the sky every night, the moon, it wanes and waxes. And the Jewish people are compared to a moon because Jewish life is that way. Not only for the individual, but to the tzibur also, for Klal Yisrael. There are periods of spiritual growth, and there are periods where the people fall. The people, Yiddishkeit seems to almost disappear, and then miraculously it's reborn again. The Kiddush HaChodesh, the rebirth of the moon, takes place again. That's how the Jewish people, that's their cycle. Every year comes Rosh Hashanah. It's like a repeat performance. Every year we Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we do tshuva, and we say Al Chait, I did this avera and that avera, and please God forgive me and let me have a good life, and I promise I won't do it again. And then what happens? We do it again. It comes after, I'm thinking that in the Haftorah that we read this Shabbos, the Torah says that the Haftarah relates to the episode of Eliyahu on Har Carmel, that Eliyahu gathered the people around and he admonished them for worshiping the Baal, which is an idol, and then there's the 400 practitioners of the Baal, the ministers of the Baal, and a fire comes down and consumes them. And then the people are so inspired. They say, Hashem hu Elokim, Hashem hu Elokim. God is the true God. And we repeat the same thing on Yom Kippur. We say, Hashem hu Elokim, Hashem hu Elokim. So I saw in one of the Svarim, the Rav Nachman from Kelm said that the reason why they repeated Hashem Elokim, Hashem Elokim is because there was not complete sincerity. They were all excited. And they were, yes, we know we're not going to believe in idols anymore. But the fact that they said Hashem Elokim twice was a giveaway. It means that it was not totally internalized. And lo and behold, after they said Hashem Elokim, what happens? They went back. The Navi is full of it. They went back to worship Avodah Zarah. We're the same way. Comes to Yom Kippur, we say Hashem Elokim. At the end of the davening, everybody's yelling and with fervor and passion. Hashem Elokim, Hashem Elokim. We say it 7 times, and then they blow the shofar, take off our talis, finish Marv, and go home. Everything becomes almost the same as it was before. So, but that's the pattern of life. So every year there's a Rosh Hashanah, and every year there's a Yom Kippur. So you'll say, what do I need it for? I messed up last year. I messed up the year before. It doesn't stick. Why do I have to go through it again? The answer is because there's always new possibilities. And even if you just make small steps and small progress, it's worth it. And there's always a chain. Even if you a person could go through a lifetime and not do anything of value. But there's always a point of change. I grew up in when I was a young child. There was one of the people who was the most celebrated was Grandma Moses. She was born just before the Civil War started. She died in the 1960s. I was a young boy then. And what was the big thing about Grandma Moses? She was a famous artist, and she started painting when she was 78. And there was always, I remember my teachers, they always spoke about, you could be like Grandma Moses. Look, at 78, she started to paint. She became a Michelangelo of her time at age 78. Everybody has, no matter what age they are, 28, 58, 78, a person could always turn a new page, turn a new leaf. And that's what the shofar is we blow the shofar, there's the tekiah in the beginning, it's a straight sound, and then there's the shvarim. Shvarim is shattered. Just like the luchos were shattered. Moshe was very shabrim pachasar. He shattered the luchos. So shvarim reflects the fact that we shattered our lives. We messed up. We like the Jews that made the Egel Hazov. Shattered. But nonetheless, there's after the shvarim comes another tekiah, because a person could always start all over again. And that's the tremendous lesson of the Luchos Shnius, that there's always there's a luchos before the egel, but there's also a luchos after the egel. The luchos after the egel is more difficult. It's with less inspiration, and it's not as exciting, and there's no thunder and lightning. But if we invest in it, like Moshe Rabbeinu, he had to make the second luchos. If we invest in the second luchos, that has the potential for continuity. Those second luchos lasted for us throughout all the generations, and every person could come down from the mountain again, even after he lost the first luchos. A person can come down again with a second luchos, and it's not only once, it's throughout one's lifetime. There's always a possibility of retrieving the second luchos and transforming one's life once more.